What if Solomon stayed faithful, the kingdom unbroken? Picture Jerusalem at golden hour. The sun kisses limestone walls. Trumpets shimmer across the hills. In the heart of the city, cedar beams breathe. Gold gleams like dawn itself, and the ark rests in a house built for worship. The wisest king alive steps onto polished stone, robes whispering. A kingdom held together by justice, song, and something more than power. Now ask it with me. What if the wisdom stayed? What if the heart of the king never slipped? Before we imagine a new path, let's walk the old one, the canonical one, so we're on the same road. Solomon, son of David, began like a sunrise. He asked for wisdom instead of riches, and became a king whose mind could untie any knot. He judged between two mothers with a clarity that made everyone whisper, "That's God's wisdom, not just a man's." He built the temple in Jerusalem, a place of dazzling beauty, a place where smoke rose and songs lifted the city like incense. People came from everywhere. The Queen of Sheba traveled across deserts to test him, and left in awe. Proverbs spilled from him. Peace surrounded him. Silver piled up like stones, but even sunlit kingdoms cast shadows. Power loves extra weight. Treaties, palaces, chariots, projects that swallow decades. Solomon built, and built, and built. Forced labor hardened into a system. Taxes pinched. The king married widely to secure alliances, foreign princesses from great households, and with them came invitations to newer altars, different rituals, other gods. Shrines rose on hills around the city, little fires flickering where no fire should be. The man who knew wisdom wandered from the one he once asked wisdom of. The story says God confronted him. A prophet warned, the kingdom would tear, not in Solomon's days, but after. And so it did. When Solomon died, his son Rehoboam took the throne. People came with a simple plea: ease the heavy yoke your father laid on us. Rehoboam asked advice. The elders counseled gentleness. His younger friends pushed bravado. Say you'll be tougher. He chose bravado. Words like whips snapped the air. 10 tribes walked away with a new leader named Jeroboam. They formed a northern kingdom called Israel, with its own throne, its own altars, to keep his people from returning to Jerusalem. Jeroboam set golden calves in Dan and Bethel. Over time, worship fractured. The north and south eyed each other, sometimes as brothers, sometimes as rivals. History followed the split. The north fell first. Assyria swept in like a black tide, and the 10 tribes were scattered, carried off, blended into distant maps. The south, Judah, lasted longer, anchored by David's line and the temple, but Babylon eventually came. Jerusalem's walls cracked. The temple burned. People went into exile. In that long ache, prophets cried out, poets wept by foreign rivers, and the community learned to pray without a house of stone. When the exile ended, a smaller people returned, rebuilt, waited, and wondered. And that's the path we know. Now let's turn the key. What if Solomon never turned away? Not a perfect king, no one is, but a faithful one, steady to the end. What if wisdom and worship held his heart like iron beneath silk, and he was brave enough to walk back burdens he'd piled on his people? What if he listened early, before grumbling became revolt, and turned heavy labor into shared purpose, taxation into fair contribution, and alliances into hospitality without imported altars? In this alternate line, we start small and real. Solomon notices the friction. He remembers the covenant. Kings are stewards, not owners. He dismantles the hilltop shrines he once allowed, with his own hands if he must, and publicly recommits the nation to the temple, to a single flame in the center, rather than many little fires in the margins. He convenes elders, priests, and leaders from all tribes. The lesson is simple. To be wise is to be faithful. To be faithful is to be just. He reduces forced labor, sets Sabbath-like rhythms for workers on royal projects, redistributes some estates to ensure local economies breathe. There's still splendor, but not at the cost of people's lives. Imagine the mood in the streets, relief moving like rain through a dry city. The murmurs under Rehoboam's future fade before they're born. Older and younger advisors learn the same language. Kindness is strength. When Solomon dies, Rehoboam inherits a content, united nation. He remembers his father's final counsel. Answer with a gentle word, and the people will stand with you. He does. Jeroboam, he's still a talented administrator, but there's no spark to ignite revolt. A gifted man stays where he belongs, serving rather than splitting. No golden calves rise in Dan and Bethel, because there's no reason to keep anyone from Jerusalem. One kingdom, one altar, one pilgrimage road. Now stretch the map. A united monarchy in the heart of the ancient Middle East is not a small thing. The Levant is a bridge between empires. Egypt to the southwest, Mesopotamia to the east, Anatolia to the north. A single Israel with a stable dynasty is a hinge in that door. With internal peace, the kingdom invests in border fortresses, fair trade treaties, and a professional defense that doesn't bleed the farms dry. International marriages still happen, but they're cultural bridges rather than compromises in worship. Think of caravans crossing safe highways marked by milestone stones bearing proverbs about justice. Think of cities that grow into learning centers around the temple, where scribes teach not just how to read, but how to live. Spiritually, this matters. Without the split, worship remains centralized, not as a choke point, but as a heartbeat. Festivals draw all tribes into the same songs. Musicians and poets from north and south share melodies, and the psalms gather accents from every valley. The priesthood maintains a unified calendar. The prophetic voice is still needed. Kings always need truth-tellers. But it's less consumed with patching a torn nation and more focused on shaping its soul. Mercy to the poor, justice in the courts, humility at the top. And what happens to the literature we know? It's delicate to touch, because our texts are gifts from the story we actually have. But imagine this. Proverbs still constellate wisdom. Ecclesiastes, that aching book, might read differently if Solomon ends in faithful clarity rather than weariness. Perhaps his reflections keep the humility but carry a quieter joy, less haunted by regret. The narrative about kings would hold a radiant counterexample for generations, a sovereign who stayed true. Later prophets would quote him not just as a warning, but as a promise. It can be done. A ruler can finish well. The centuries roll and the empires rise. Assyria still grows like a storm cloud, but a united, respected Israel is harder to break. Instead of two smaller kingdoms playing tug-of-war, there's one polity that can negotiate without panic. Tribute might still be paid. That was common, but from strength, not fear. When Assyrian envoys come, they face a court that knows its value. The northern highlands are not an exposed flank because they aren't a separate state. Border fortresses in Galilee and the Jezreel Valley work in concert with Judah's walls. Refugees don't run south because they don't have to. The nation stands as one. Do we erase the exile entirely? We can't say for sure. Big empires bend maps by sheer gravity. But the timing, the terms, the very texture of the story could change. A united kingdom might delay Assyria's conquest, force different treaties, or avoid the catastrophic deportations that dissolved the northern tribes. Even if pressure comes later from Babylon, the loss may be less total. Imagine a siege that ends with a negotiated peace rather than fire. Imagine the temple standing longer, the knowledge of worship flowing without interruption for centuries. And if the exile comes at all, it comes as a shorter winter. The synagogue, born in exile's absence of the temple, might develop more slowly. The center of gravity stays in Jerusalem longer. Pilgrimage culture deepens, and with it a hospitality economy that knits villages to capital. The diaspora still exists. People always travel, but the tether back home is stronger. The Samaritan story, born from northern-southern fracture, never forms the same way. Centuries later, when travelers cross Samaria's hills, there's no ancient family feud to flare up at wells. The social fabric changes too. Without the split, intertribal marriages are normal and celebrated. Shared festivals keep distant cousins, Dan to Beersheba, on first-name terms. Proverbs become proverbs not just for Judah or Israel, but for one household of 12. The national memory carries fewer laments about brother against brother. The cautionary chapters are still there. Human nature isn't erased. But the anthem swings toward possibility. Unity is not naive. It is practiced. And in the palace, the Davidic line benefits from a bright ancestor. Kings after Solomon inherit not just a crown, but a clear, living standard. No one is above the covenant. Standards shape culture. Court advisors, raised on stories of faithful Solomon, speak with more courage. They aren't just historians, but caretakers of a remembered ideal. When a later king drifts, he's compared not to David alone, but to a Solomon who stayed the course. That double mirror helps some turn back faster. Economically, a stable, faithful kingdom becomes a regional crossroads. Copper from the Arabah, cedars from Lebanon, grain from the Shephelah, and purple dyes from the coast flow through markets shaded by sycamores. Craftsmen thrive, stonecutters, woodworkers, bronze casters trained on the temple's beauty, applying sacred skill to public works. There's a gentle pride in how things are made. People visit not just to see gold, but to hear wisdom in the streets. Disputes settled on porches, elders telling stories at sunset, children learning letters with proverbs that sound like music. We should be honest about the risks in this bright path. Prosperity can soften spines. A united nation can get complacent. That's why the prophetic voice never retires. In this alternate line, prophets still thunder, against injustice, against the sneaky creep of arrogance, but their thunder builds, rather than only warns. They point to Solomon's example. Kingship is meant to serve. Worship is meant to center. People are meant to be cared for. The national story holds a living proof that fidelity and flourishing can share a table. Now the lens widens beyond Israel. In a world where the kingdom stays whole, neighboring cultures meet a different witness. Pilgrims from the Aegean or the Nile don't just marvel at architecture. They encounter a community whose ethics are as impressive as its stones. Some return home and carry back not just artifacts, but a hunger for justice. Think of foreign scribes quoting Hebrew maxims in unexpected courts. Think of treaties that include care clauses for the poor because everyone expects it. The influence is quiet but wide, salt and light in the language of later centuries. At the same time, think about the texts themselves traveling. The translation of Hebrew scriptures into Greek, the Septuagint, still happens as the world becomes more cosmopolitan. But maybe it carries notes from a still-centered Jerusalem, where scribes and singers collaborate across generations without the gap of exile. The songs of ascent, sung on the road up to the city, might have more verses, shaped by centuries of unbroken pilgrimage. Halfway through this thought experiment, I'd love to hear from you. Which single change in Solomon's later years, removing hilltop shrines, easing labor, or reforming the court, do you think would most prevent the split? Share your take in the comments, and if you enjoy these respectful what-ifs, consider subscribing so you won't miss the next journey. Let's step back into the palace for one more sequence. Solomon is old, but steady. He gathers the tribes for a final feast. The temple courts glow with lamps. He speaks simply, not as a mystic on a mountaintop, but as a shepherd king with dust on his sandals. He blesses Rehoboam, but he also blesses Jeroboam and every capable leader, name by name, calling them stewards of one flock. He orders the dismantling of any private altars still flickering in quiet groves. He signs decrees protecting small farmers from land grabs. He appoints judges whose integrity is so reliable that people whisper, "It's like the old days of Moses, but in our time." There's nothing flashy here. It's practical faithfulness, the hardest kind. How does war look in this world? Different. When neighbors rattle their sabers, Israel's response is measured. Peace is preferred, defense is prepared. The army is trained but not worshipped. Veterans are honored, cared for, and reintegrated into normal life. Borders aren't lines of constant skirmish but zones of exchange. Markets, watchtowers, and shared irrigation projects with friendly towns just beyond. Alliances are made with sober eyes and clear conscience, without bending worship to please a treaty partner. What about art? Oh, it sings. Temple architecture inspires public buildings with graceful courtyards and colonnades cast in warm light. Poets pen epics about unity, the way ancient bards once sang of victories. Dancers rehearse for festivals that bring shepherds and scholars shoulder to shoulder. The harp doesn't just remember David. It explores new modes, because long peace gives artists time. Craft becomes a theology. God cares about how things are made, because people matter. In this line, the prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah, if they still rise, preach into a different landscape. Isaiah's vision of nations streaming to Zion to learn peace could be read not as utopian fantasy, but as a near possibility. Jeremiah's grief might be tempered by reforms that came just in time. The words don't disappear. The human heart never graduates from needing guidance, but they ring in a city that knows how to listen. And centuries later, when global empires crest again, Persia, Greece, Rome, the Jewish world stands on a different foundation. The diaspora is vibrant, but not traumatized. The Samaritan question never inflames. Intermarriage debates are less frantic because the center is secure. Teachers travel, ideas travel. A people steady in their worship meet the world without losing themselves. When roads are built across continents and a common Greek tongue links harbors and hills, the scriptures move easily along those paths, carried by a people who are practiced at unity. Now, step back with me to the present. We have to be gentle here. This is a respectful thought experiment, not doctrine. History is a single river, and we only hold a drop. The story we received, the real one, gave us prophets who spoke into pain, songs that were born in exile, and communities that learned resilience in loss. It gave warnings that saved later generations and hopes that outlasted ruins. Our what if doesn't replace that. It simply asks us to see the hinge moments and wonder what faithfulness might do. So, what do we carry into our own lives from this alternate path? Maybe this. Splits don't appear overnight. They grow from small permissions. A hilltop shrine tolerated here. A harsh word chosen there. A burden left too long on tired shoulders. Faithfulness too grows quietly. A shrine dismantled. A schedule adjusted to let people rest. A leader answering softly when pride urges a shove. Solomon's real story warns us. Our imagined Solomon encourages us. Between the two, we learn. Close your eyes and picture that city again at dusk. Lamps tremble in a warm wind. The temple glows. A king ends well, and a people sing the same song as one. We don't live in that world. We live in this one. But every day offers a small version of that choice. To split or to hold, to harden or to return, to drift toward little fires or to find the central flame. In that way, the question isn't only about Solomon. It's about us, right now. Quiet faithfulness in the place we stand, the kind that keeps a kingdom or a family or a friend group unbroken.